The history of mankind is full of mysteries. We like to think the past is neatly explained in books, but sometimes archaeologists come across objects that simply shouldn't exist. Objects that defy everything we think we know about history. How do you explain an ancient map drawn in 1513 that shows Antarctica without ice? What about a doll-like figurine discovered in rock layers said to be 2 million years old? Or nanostructures so insanely precise they rival modern aerospace technology? Archaeologists, skeptics, and believers all find themselves asking the same exact question. How could these objects have ended up where they were found? Are they elaborate hoaxes, natural formations mistaken for tools, or traces of civilizations long erased from history? In this video, we'll show you 15 of the most mysterious ancient artifacts that shouldn't exist, according to everything we know about the past. Before we start, if you're new here, be sure to subscribe. Number 15. The ancient nanotechnology of Russia. When most of us hear the word nanotechnology, we picture something futuristic, developed in high-tech labs within the last few decades. But what if evidence of something strikingly similar had already been buried beneath the ground for tens of thousands of years? In 1991, while prospecting in Russia's Ural Mountains, scientists recovered microscopic coils, spirals, and tiny shaft-like objects made from copper, tungsten, and molybdenum. Viewed under a microscope, many resembled precision-engineered parts similar to components used in modern aerospace and missile systems. Sediment dating placed the surrounding layers between roughly 20,000 and 300,000 years old, raising a strange question. How could objects with such intricate designs appear in deposits so ancient? Some researchers argue they are simply modern contaminants introduced into older soil. Some point out that similar structures were recovered from multiple sites and different sediment layers, making the discovery harder to dismiss outright. If these objects truly belong to the age of the sediments, they challenge far more than archaeology. They force us to ask whether advanced tech is exclusively a modern achievement, or whether traces of an earlier chapter of human history have survived where no one expected to find them. Number 14. The perplexing Baghdad Battery, a clay jar, doesn't look like the kind of object that could challenge everything we think we know about ancient technology. But that is just what happened near Baghdad, where archaeologists found a collection of jars dating to around 200 BC. Each jar contained an iron rod suspended inside a copper cylinder, both sealed with asphalt. On their own, they appear ordinary. Add an acidic liquid such as vinegar or lemon juice, however, and the jar produces a small electrical current of about 1.5 volts. That discovery gave rise to the name the Baghdad Battery. But was it ever meant to generate electricity? Some researchers believe the jars may have been used for electroplating, covering objects with thin layers of gold or silver. Others think they played a role in religious ceremonies, producing mild electric shocks to impress worshippers. Skeptics remain unconvinced, arguing they were simply containers for scrolls or sacred texts. Yet modern experiments continue to show the design actually works. If that wasn't its purpose, then why build it this way? And if it was, how did people living more than 2,000 years ago find it? Number 13. The millions-year-old figurine back in 1889. Workers drilling a well near Nampa brought up a small figurine from a depth of roughly 320 feet. It was made from clay mixed with quartz and looked like a human, complete with markings that appeared to represent clothing and jewelry. According to reports from the time, the surrounding geological layer was estimated to be nearly 2 million years old, an age that predates any accepted human presence in North America. That claim immediately divided opinion. Many dismissed the object as an elaborate hoax or argued it somehow slipped into the well from a much younger layer above. Others pointed to the drilling records and eyewitness testimony, insisting the discovery deserved serious attention. If the figurine truly came from where it was reported, it forces an uncomfortable question. Who possessed the skill to shape it at a time when, according to conventional history, no one like us should have been there at all? Number 12. The mysterious serpentine mask, the Pyramid of the Sun in the city of Teotihuacan, has fascinated historians for decades. But this object has only deepened its mystery. During excavations in 2011, archaeologists found a green serpentine mask placed with a collection of ritual offerings near the pyramid's foundation. Unlike the stylized faces common throughout Mesoamerican art, this one carries surprisingly lifelike features, giving the impression that it may have been modeled after an actual person. Was it meant to honor a ruler or represent a god whose identity has long been forgotten? The pyramid itself is immense, measuring roughly 220 by 230 meters at its base and rising more than 65 meters high. It dominates Teotihuacan, the city the Aztecs later called the place where the gods were created. Even today, its original builders, its true purpose, and even its ancient name remain uncertain. Alongside the mask were obsidian blades, pottery fragments, animal bones, and small figurines carefully placed as ceremonial offerings during construction. Burials beneath the pyramid are even older than the monument itself, suggesting this location held special meaning long before Teotihuacan emerged. Some researchers believe the mask depicts an ancestor chosen to watch over the pyramid. Others connect it to rulers or deities. But one detail refuses to fade into the background. Why does this single face look so strangely human when almost every other sacred image from the period followed an entirely different style? Number 11. The Olmec portal to another world. Standing before this monument, it's not hard to understand why people once believed it opened the way to another world. The portal al inframundo, or Monument 9, is a massive Olmec carving that has long been associated with the entrance to the underworld. Whether that belief reflects ancient reality or sacred symbolism is still impossible to say. But the monument itself dates between 800 and 400 BC and weighs well over 2,000 pounds. Carved from volcanic stone, it depicts a jaguar-like mountain with a cross-shaped opening at its center, an image many scholars interpret as a doorway between the human world and the spirit realm. Its own journey proved almost as extraordinary. Stolen decades ago from Chalcatzingo, the monument was cut into 18 pieces, smuggled into the U.S., reassembled, and passed through private collections in New York, Chicago, and Denver before finally returning to Mexico in 2023. Researchers believe it played a role in religious ceremonies, but its true purpose remains uncertain. Was it simply a sacred monument, or did it represent something the Olmec believed people could actually pass through? Number 10. The crystal dagger of Montelirio. Tholos. The people who lived 5,000 years ago weren't supposed to be capable of making something like this. But inside the Montelirio Tholos tomb in southern Spain, archaeologists found a dagger unlike anything expected from prehistoric Europe. This 8.5 inches long dagger wasn't made from bronze or flint, but from a single piece of pure rock crystal. It rested beside 25 burials together with ivory ornaments, amber beads, gold objects, and smaller crystal arrowheads. Crystal is one of the hardest materials to shape because it fractures without warning. Even a tiny mistake can ruin the entire piece. Whoever produced this dagger understood the material with astonishing skill. As a weapon, however, it made little sense. Crystal is simply too fragile for combat. That has led archaeologists to connect it with ceremony rather than warfare. Across many ancient cultures, crystal was linked with spiritual power, ancestors, and the unseen world. Perhaps this dagger served the same purpose, carried not by a warrior, but by someone whose authority came from ritual instead of battle. Sadly, its meaning still refuses to become clear. Number 9. The Chinese sword in Georgia. Well, China is located on the opposite side of the Pacific Ocean from the United States. That's why the discovery of what appeared to be an ancient Chinese ceremonial sword in Georgia left so many people asking the same question: how could it possibly have ended up there? The artifact surfaced back in 2014 and was carved from green lizardite stone decorated with dragon imagery and Chinese characters. Specialists linked its style to ritual objects associated with China's Shang and Zhou dynasties, placing its design more than 2,000 years in the past. If that assessment is correct, its journey becomes difficult to explain. One possibility is that it crossed the Pacific long before Columbus through ancient voyages or far-reaching trade networks. Another is far less dramatic, that the object is a modern reproduction that somehow found its way into the wrong place. But its craftsmanship closely matches genuine Chinese ceremonial pieces, keeping the debate alive. The sword also revives an older question that has never completely disappeared. Did people from distant civilizations reach the Americas far earlier than conventional history suggests? Whether the answer is yes or no, it's still a mystery. Number 8. The Williams Enigmalith. What would you think if a rock sitting in your hand appeared to contain a modern electrical plug? That's the question electrical engineer John J. Williams found himself asking in 1998 after discovering an unusual stone with what looked like a three-pronged connector embedded inside it. He later called it the Williams Enigmalith. According to Williams, geological examination suggested the surrounding rock could be tens of thousands of years old, far older than any technology resembling an electrical component. Naturally, the discovery divided opinion. Some dismissed it as a carefully staged hoax, arguing the object had been set into concrete or artificial stone. Williams strongly disagreed, insisting the metal was completely fused into natural rock rather than inserted afterward. X-ray images reportedly revealed dense structures hidden inside, hinting there might be more than the visible plug alone. Even so, he refused destructive testing, saying he didn't want to risk damaging the object. If the Enigmalith is authentic, it raises extraordinary possibilities, from a forgotten civilization with unexpected technological knowledge to something even more difficult to explain. But maybe the strangest part of the story is this: Williams never tried to sell it, choosing instead to keep it hidden while asking for better answers. Number 7. The ancient mosaic floor of Oklahoma. If the Baghdad Battery is the kind of object that makes you question what ancient people may have known, this next discovery asks an even bigger question. What if the mystery isn't a device at all, but the remains of an entire civilization? Back in 1969, a routine construction project near Oklahoma City found something nobody expected to find beneath the ground. Workers exposed what appeared to be a carefully fitted stone surface, its blocks arranged in a repeating diamond pattern. It didn't resemble ordinary fractured rock. The stones looked level, closely joined, and deliberately placed. Geologists who examined the surrounding deposits estimated them to be nearly 200,000 years old, an age that sits far beyond the timeline of the world's earliest known civilizations. Reports also described what looked like grout separating the stones, while a hammer-like object discovered nearby added another layer of speculation. Before a proper investigation could continue, the site vanished beneath new construction, leaving behind little more than photographs and eyewitness accounts. Those who reject the story argue that the pattern formed naturally in sandstone. If the floor really was artificial, then it belonged to builders that history has never recognized. Was it part of a ceremonial plaza, the foundation of a lost settlement, or the last surviving trace of a world that vanished long before recorded history began? Number 6. The ancient alien artifacts of Mexico. Well, this next discovery leaves almost no middle ground. Either it's one of the most convincing archaeological hoaxes ever built, or it points toward a story few people are willing to take seriously. In 2018, a small group searching the highlands of Jalisco reported uncovering unusual stone tablets and carved objects buried beneath old tree roots and solid bedrock. Their surfaces were covered with scenes unlike anything expected from conventional archaeology: strange beings with oversized heads, spacecraft-like shapes, and images that appeared to depict creation stories. One stone showed a figure seated inside a craft, while another seemed to portray small beings emerging from a giant mouth. Tests reportedly identified organic residue on several objects dating between 8,500 and 9,500 years ago, and some pieces physically fit together as though they had once formed a larger collection. Theories surrounding them only become stranger, linking the carvings to visitors from the Cygnus star system and ancient encounters with humanity. Whether those claims hold any truth remains fiercely disputed, but the artifacts continue to fuel one question: who carved these images? And what were they trying to preserve? Number 5. The Ubaid Lizardmen. Long before the Sumerians built their grand cities, another culture had already settled the lands of southern Iraq. Archaeologists call them the Ubaid people, and among the thousands of objects they left behind are some of the strangest figurines ever found, dating back roughly 7,000 years. These clay figures don't resemble ordinary people or familiar animals. Instead, they combine human bodies with distinctly reptilian features. Some carry staffs, others wear helmet-like head coverings. One of the most unsettling examples shows a reptilian mother nursing a reptilian infant. Why create figures like these? Were they images of gods, honored ancestors, or something the Ubaid believed had once existed? Similar serpent-like beings appear in traditions from many parts of the world, from India's Naga to Mesoamerica's feathered serpent and Native American stories of underground reptilian beings. Coincidence, shared symbolism, or fragments of an older tradition? Archaeologists often interpret the figures as fertility idols or spiritual representations, yet that explanation leaves plenty of questions unanswered. The Ubaid people left no written records behind, only these silent clay figures. Number 4. Lomekwi stone tools. For a long time, scientists believed they had already found humanity's oldest stone tools. Then, Lomekwi changed the conversation. Discovered at Lomekwi 3 in Kenya's West Turkana region, these stone artifacts date back roughly 3.3 million years, pushing tool-making hundreds of thousands of years further into the past. That creates an unexpected problem. The tools are older than the earliest known members of the genus Homo. They include large stone cores, flakes, and heavy anvils, all showing clear signs of deliberate shaping despite their rough appearance. Because they differ from later tool traditions, archaeologists created a separate category for them known as Lomekwian technology. Exactly who made them remains one of the biggest unanswered questions. They may have been crafted by an earlier hominin species that had already learned to reshape stone long before modern humans appeared. Africa continues to rewrite the earliest chapters of our story, with places like Rising Star and Sterkfontein revealing discoveries that keep challenging old assumptions. These tools suggest that intelligence, planning, and innovation may have begun much earlier than anyone once imagined. Number 3. The Giants of Monte Prama. One thing about the Giants of Monte Prama has never been questioned: they're real. Beyond that, certainty begins to disappear. Nearly 8 feet tall, these enormous stone figures were brought to light in 1974 near Cabras on Sardinia's western coast. Most archaeologists connect them with the Nuragic civilization, a culture that lived on the island between roughly 1800 and 240 BC. Even so, almost every important question remains unanswered. Their broad chins, oversized circular eyes, shields, and warrior-like appearance were clearly shaped with intention, yet nothing was left behind to explain who they represent. Because many fragments were recovered beside ancient graves, one interpretation links them to funerary rituals standing as protectors of the dead. That idea, however, is far from settled. No written record confirms why they were created, who commissioned them, or why they vanished from history. Perhaps the greatest mystery isn't the statues themselves, but the people responsible for them. The Nuragic civilization left thousands of stone monuments across Sardinia, but none of its history survives in writing. Number 2. Ancient metal rod encased in stone. Finding a metal object inside solid rock sounds more like fiction than geology, yet that's exactly what drew attention to an unusual discovery in China's Meizong Mountains. Zilin Wang came across a dense black stone containing what appeared to be a precisely machined metal rod running through its center. The rod displayed evenly cut grooves remarkably similar to modern screw threading, while the surrounding stone was so hard it couldn't simply be broken apart by hand. If the rock formed naturally around the object, the rod would have needed to remain undisturbed for an immense span of time. That's where the mystery begins. Its appearance doesn't resemble known ancient tools, and its precision seems difficult to dismiss as chance alone. Geologists have never reached a single explanation. Some view it as an unusual natural formation, while others see the possibility of lost technology or something even more extraordinary. Without detailed testing of either the rod or the stone, the questions remain exactly where they started. Which arrived first? The rock or the object trapped inside it? Number 1. The mysterious grooved spheres. Our understanding of human history follows a familiar timeline. These tiny spheres refuse to fit anywhere within it. Recovered from Precambrian rock formations in South Africa, believed to be around 2.8 billion years old, they immediately raised questions that still haven't gone away. Most are no larger than an inch, yet each displays 3 evenly spaced grooves running around its middle with striking consistency. Some contain a soft white material inside, while others are solid and formed from a bluish metallic substance that has sparked years of discussion. What makes them so odd isn't simply their appearance, but where they were found. According to accepted geology, the surrounding rock formed when Earth supported only microscopic single-celled organisms. There should be nothing remotely resembling crafted objects inside it. Critics argue that strange geological processes can occasionally produce symmetrical shapes. But the truth we may never find. So, what do you think about these ancient artifacts? Which one perplexed you the most? Let us know. And with it, that's all. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon